All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another yoga session. Thank you for coming. I just put a thing in the chat box over here. If this time block is weird for you now that school is sort of starting back up online, like a lot of schools are, just let me know if there's a better time or a preferred time. And yeah, let's get going. So take a second. If you're wearing socks or an extra hoodie or whatever, take that off. Get comfortable on your mat. Find your comfy seated position. As we always do, we're going to switch our legs to the less comfortable seated position. It's going to feel weird. That's good. We very rarely sit like this, so yeah, give yourself the chance to try out the new configuration here. All right, so we're going to get sitting nice and straight. Think about that cord coming down from the ceiling to the top of your head. Sort of like your grandma's poking you between the shoulder blades and saying, sit up straight. Then we're going to put our hands just on our knees or wherever, and we're going to close our eyes, and we're just going to take 10 nice deep breaths. I want you to really think about breathing in deep through your nose and then out through your nose. If you'd rather do in through your nose, out through your mouth, you can try that. But on your inhale, I want you to really think about letting your belly expand. Your eyes are closed. You can't see it. So just try to feel it. Think about having a balloon in your stomach and you're trying to fill it up with air, trying to puff it out as much as you can. And then let it all out. And then really hollow out your stomach. Breathe in, nice and big. And release. And as you exhale, try not to hunch over on the exhale. Try to stay sitting up nice and tall. Keep coming back to revisiting that posture, seeing if you've started kind of sinking down or slouching a little bit as you're doing the breathing. For a lot of us, good posture is not really our default, so we have to focus on it pretty hard in order to stay sitting up straight. Might even feel like, whew, this is already a little bit of core work, and that's a good thing. It's just sort of showing you how to engage your core. 2 more breaths. Try to go really, really big on that inhale and let it all out. And the last one, think about filling up that balloon, really expanding your belly and releasing. All right, let's open our eyes. And like we always do, we're going to start with just a little bit of shoulder and spine stuff. So we're going to bring our right hand up in the air, and then we're going to bring it onto the ground behind us. Left hand comes to our right knee, and we're going to look over that right shoulder. Maybe sort of pulling on that left hand to get a little bit more twist. Just to where it feels good, not where it hurts. And if you're new to this yoga session, I always say this is one of my favorites for cyclists because we so often have to look over our shoulder. And most of us have one shoulder that tends to be the one we always look over, but you know, there are going to be occasions where you're going to want to be able to look over that other shoulder. So this is a great way to sort of work on that. And release that right hand, and we're going to bring it up and over, and we're going to tilt toward our left side. Still keeping that spine nice and straight. And maybe look up at the ceiling. Again, taking those nice deep breaths. You might not be expanding your belly as much now, but still just remembering to breathe. Throughout yoga, there should never really be a point where you're holding your breath. And bring it back to center. And shake it out. Let your arms just kind of slump around. Feel goofy for a second. All right, now left hand comes up in the air and then comes onto the ground behind us. Right hand comes to our left knee, and we're going to look over that left shoulder. And here, maybe notice if one side feels easier than the other. Often we have dominant sides or sides that we prefer, so you know, you might always look over this left shoulder. So this is going to feel a lot easier, and you can maybe turn just a little more. Or maybe this feels harder than the other side because you're always looking over the other shoulder. Deep breaths. Think about sitting up nice and straight and tall, even though we're twisted. Maybe use that right hand to pull just a little more on that left knee and get a tiny bit deeper into the stretch. And release that left hand, and we're going to bring it up and over and tilt to our right. And maybe let your body tilt a little bit more than you have been previously. Maybe you're even kind of rocking a little bit and looking up at the ceiling. Nice deep breaths. Really feel that stretch in on your rib cage on the left side. And bring it back to center. And shake it out. The doofiest part, but the best part. All right, let's come up onto our hands and knees. Now, normally we've been starting with a bit of cat-cow, but today I want to actually do some bird dog and challenge our balance just a little bit. So we're going to bring our left hand out in front of us. So left arm straight out in front of us. And then our right leg comes straight back behind us. Think about it being really straight, and think about your left hand is trying to touch the wall in front of you. So you're really stretching for that wall in front of you, but your right foot is also trying to touch the wall behind you. So that's stretching backwards. So we're getting a really intense stretch here. And we're going to challenge it some more. We're going to bring our left elbow into our right knee and have them meet. And send them back out. Stretch it out. Think about keeping your core nice and stable. Neither should be dropping. Shoulder shouldn't be dropping. Hip shouldn't be dropping. Nice and stable. And bring them back in. And send them back out. 3 more of these. Bring it in. And send it out. Again, think about that core being nice and stable here. Bring it in. Send it out. Nice deep breaths. And last one, in. Bring it out. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And set them back down. Whew. Maybe shake out your shoulders, shake out your hips a little bit. Take a nice deep breath in tabletop, sort of make sure you're in that good neutral spine position. So you don't want to be in that cow where you're dropped, but you also don't want to be arched in that cat. Just want to be nice and neutral. All right, right hand comes out. Left leg comes back out. Really think about stretching toward those 2 walls. That really helps kind of activate everything. It kind of forces you to turn on your core. Keep breathing. And let's bring the elbow into the knee. And send it back out. Pause, check on your alignment. Is your core still engaged? Are you in a nice neutral tabletop still? Bring it in. And send it back out. 3 more. Elbow to knee. And send your hand and foot back out. Nice deep breaths. And bring it in, elbow to knee. And send it back out. Last one. Bring it in. Everything nice and tight. And send it back out. And hand and knee come back down. Whew, let's press it back into child's pose for just a hot second here. Relax. Take a few deep breaths. While we're here, let's just get a little bit of shoulder work in. So we're going to bring our left hand, we're going to send it under our right armpit. And let your head just come down. Maybe even start kind of rocking towards your left side to get a bit more of a stretch. And unthread that left arm. Now we're going to take the right hand, we're going to thread that under the left armpit, and let your head come back down. And again, if you want a little more stretch, you can kind of start leaning a little bit to the right. That'll give you a bit more on the shoulder and also a bit more on your right hip. And come on back to center and make your way back up into a nice neutral tabletop position, just on your hands and knees. Now, good news, we are going to go into some cat-cow, so we'll have a little bit of an easier time there. So as we go into cat, we're not necessarily thinking about hunching our back. We're thinking about sort of focus more this time on dropping your hips and then dropping your head and neck. And then your back will kind of naturally arch, but the focus is more on the dropping versus the arching. And then we're slowly going to start to bring the hips up, bring the chest up, bring the chin up, and let our stomach drop down in our nice cow. And we'll do this 4 more times, just at your own pace. Just sort of keep moving through the 2. Don't really hold it at the top or at the bottom. Just keep working your way through. Sort of think about this as like lubricating the chain on your bike. We're just lubricating the vertebra in our spine. And maybe notice if you've been doing this for the past couple sessions, if there's any differences or changes, if anything's tight from this weekend, if you've been doing some strength stuff, is anything starting to feel a little tenser? And that's not necessarily a bad thing if something's tight. Just good to know. Just like you might not be, super flexible one day and then next day you can actually do something. And when you're done, just come to that nice neutral tabletop. And we're going to just flow through a little circle flow. It's one of my favorites for getting going and getting moving again. So we're going to start by slowly making our way back into that cat position. So letting your hips drop, letting your neck drop and head drop. And then bringing our hips up, chin up, head up into our cow. Then we're going to tuck our toes, pop our knees, and then we're going to slowly straighten our legs and press back into that first downward dog of the day. Take a quick beat here. And then we're going to slither forward into our plank. We're going to drop our knees, let our toes come out, and press it back into child's pose. And make your way back on up to the tabletop. We're going to do that 2 more times. So we're going to arch our way into cat. Hips come up, chin comes up, chest comes up into cow. Tuck your toes, pop your knees, press it up and back into downward dog. Slither it forward into plank. Drop your knees, toes come out, press it back into child's pose. All right, last one. Bring her on up into tabletop. Drop your hips, drop your head, drop your chest into cat. And then hips come up, chest comes up, chin comes up for cow. Tuck your toes, pop your knees, and press it up and back into downward dog. Then hover it forward into plank. Drop your knees, toes come out, and press it back into child's pose. And relax for a minute. Maybe see if one hip is tighter than the other. You can sort of rock a little bit to your left and a little bit to your right. See if you can maybe get a little bit closer to having your heels touch your butt. Totally okay if it doesn't. Mine definitely do not. That's fine. And slowly make your way on up to tabletop. And then just make your way up to standing. All right. All right, so I want you to set your feet nice and firm on the mat, maybe even raise your toes off the mat and then put them back down. Try to go one by one. And think about, again, standing with that good posture that your grandmother or mother or father is always yelling at you about. So think like there's that cord coming back down from the ceiling, lifting our heads up. Shoulders are down and relaxed, but still strong. Our arms are maybe kind of out in front, like where our palms are out in front of us. It's really, really strong. Core should be engaged. Glutes are turned on, quads are turned on. This is a very active pose. We are not just slumping into this. We are very firm and active in this. All right, we're gonna inhale our arms up. We're gonna look up. We're gonna do a teeny tiny back bend. And then on our next exhale, we're gonna swan dive it forward into a forward fold. If you need to bend your knees a little bit for this, totally fine. If you'd rather hang with your legs straight, if you feel like that works for your hamstrings better, also totally fine. Hands can come to your shins. Really play around with what feels good for you. And let your head deactivate. So just have it hanging very gently. Keep breathing. And on our next inhale, we're just going to straighten our spine. So we're making a nice 90-degree angle with our legs on our back. And then exhale and fold again. We're going to walk our fingers forward and come into a plank, or walk your feet back depending on where you're at on the mat. And then we're going to slow race it down to the ground, thinking about your elbows coming in and behind you versus out. Then once you're down, toes come out, hands come far and wide from the mat. And on our next inhale, we're going to press up into a teeny tiny baby cobra. Pausing here for some deep breaths. And I want you, while you're here, to really think about having your rib cage so that the bottom of your rib cage is sort of on top of, or is right at the mat, so you can actually almost feel your ribs. And think about this as like a little massage for them. Keep breathing. The breathing is where we get the massage effect. Think about shoulders being down, looking straight ahead. If you want more work in this posture, you can think about activating your legs, maybe even bring it so that your toes come off the ground, so the tops of your feet are off the mat. Or just use this as a stretch. And on your next exhale, slowly bring it back down. Bring your hands back to either side of your chest, tuck your toes, press it up into plank, and back into downward dog. And we're just going to hold this for a few breaths. So as we think about downward dog, we're thinking about bringing our butt up towards where the wall and the ceiling meet. So we're thinking up and back. Shoulder blades should feel like they're sort of tracking down your spine. And it's okay if your heels don't touch the ground. It's pretty normal, actually. But maybe pedal your feet very slowly. I think the tendency with downward dog is everyone starts pedaling their feet because it's pretty comfortable to do this. But you want to really do it slowly so that when the foot is, like so in this example, my right foot is down, my heel is actually getting to the ground. And then I'm going to slowly switch and let my left foot come all the way down. That way I'm actually getting the stretch. Couple more breaths here. All right, let's bring that right leg up and back. And then we're gonna step our right foot up between our hands. We're gonna spin that left foot down onto the mat, so it's at about a 95-degree angle with our right foot. And then we're gonna windmill our arms up into our warrior two. We're gonna hold our arms nice and strong. We're gonna think about activating that back leg and glute. We're gonna check and make sure we can see our toes over our knee with our front leg, because if we can't see them, that means we're too far and our knee is kind of in danger. So we wanna be able to see our toes. Arms are out, nice and strong. We're looking over that front middle finger of our right arm. And we're breathing. Think about that cord coming down from the ceiling for how your head should be, nice and straight. All right, we're gonna tilt it back. So our right arm comes up toward the ceiling, our left hand just gently is down on the back of our leg, but we're not pressing. Now we're looking up at the ceiling. Make sure that front right leg is still bent. And bring it back to center. Nice strong arms, maybe give them a swoop if they're tired. All right, we're gonna straighten that front leg into our triangle here. And now we're gonna tip our right arm down, forward and down. So we come forward and then we come down. So our right hand may not end up on the floor. It's totally fine if it doesn't. Left arm is straight up toward the ceiling. Right arm is straight down toward the mat. Maybe it touches the mat, maybe it doesn't. If you have good balance, you can start to look up at the ceiling. If you don't have good balance, keep looking at the floor. And bring that left hand back down to the mat. Right hand comes to the other side of our right foot. Spin onto your left toes. Hands are nice and firm on the mat. And step it back to plank. And, sorry, slow race all the way to the ground. And when you're here, toes come out. Hands come far and wide. If your last baby cobra felt totally fine, maybe bring them in a little bit more. You can go for like a preteen cobra. And on your next inhale, press into those palms to raise our chest on up. Really keep engaging with your hands on the floor. I find in this pose, it's really easy to kind of forget about your hands. But if you're really pressing into them, it's gonna work your stretch a lot more. So really focus on your full hand, fingers, everything, just pressing into the ground. It also helps keep your shoulders from sinking and doing this. Deep breaths, looking straight ahead. And slowly lower it back down to the mat. Pause for a second for a breath. And hands come back to either side of our chest. We're gonna tuck our toes and press it on up into plank and back into downward dog. We're gonna hold this for a few more breaths. So again, think about that slow pedaling. And if you're someone who always pedals your feet in downward dog, think about not pedaling them for a couple breaths and see how it feels. I think a lot of the time we try to move out of discomfort instead of just sitting in it. So just stop pedaling for a couple breaths and sit in it. All right, let's get that left leg up and back in the air. And then we're gonna step it up between our hands. We're gonna spin our right foot to the floor. We're gonna look and make sure we've got about a 95-degree angle between our left foot and our right foot. And then we're gonna spin our arms up, nice and straight and solid. To our warrior two, we're gonna look over our front left hand, middle finger. We're gonna think about that cord coming down from the ceiling, keeping our head nice and straight. We're gonna check in with our alignment of our knees and toes. Can you see your toes? If you can't, you've gone too far. Back it up. Check in with your right leg. Is your right glute engaged? If your arms are tired, give them a swoosh. Remember to breathe. And while holding these can be kind of challenging, it's also a really good time to slow down your breathing. And again, when things are challenging like this, it's a really good chance to practice for in a race where your heart rate might be up, your breathing might be up, but if you can consciously slow down your breathing, you're gonna be in much better shape. All right, let's tilt it back. Right arm comes down to just gently touch your right leg. Left arm comes up and overhead. We're looking up at the ceiling. We're still breathing. Making sure that left knee is still bent. And bring it back through center. Now we're actually going to straighten out that left leg. And we're going to tilt forward first. And then we're going to bring that left arm down. Your hand might come to the ground, it might not. Right arm is going toward the ceiling. We're looking up. Or we're looking up if your balance is good on this side. We're looking down if your balance isn't good on this side. And keep breathing. And breathing in these positions where your core is kind of a little contorted is also great because on the bike, you know, we're not sitting up straight. We're not always going to have perfect ability to completely fill our bellies, but we can try. And we're going to bring that right hand back down to the mat. Left hand comes to the other side of our left foot. Spin onto your right toes. And step it back into plank. And slowly bring it down to the ground. Toes come out. All right, let's just do one tiny core thing. We're gonna bring our arms out in front of us. So this is locust, but I like to think of it as the Superman pose. So on our next inhale, well, maybe a couple inhales from now, we'll give it a minute. We're gonna bring up everything except for our pelvis. So think it's a bird, it's a plane. All right, everybody ready? Inhale it up, legs come up, arms come up, chest comes up, chin comes up. Think about your Superman, you're flying toward Metropolis. You just heard that doomsday has been spotted, so you're really trying to get there quickly. You're keeping a very strong core in order to get there faster. You're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there. And let it go, you made it. Good job. Whew. Take a breath. And bring your hands back to either side of your chest. Tuck your toes. Press it up into plank. And back into downward dog. Couple breaths here, nothing crazy. Maybe notice how much easier downward dog feels this far into practice. I always say at the beginning, the first couple downward dogs are just the worst. And then midway through, you're like, this is actually a pretty good break. All right, let's bring that right leg up in the air. And this time we're going to bring our right knee up between our hands. Shin and top of your foot comes to the floor. Left leg comes down on the ground. Left foot comes out, so the top of your foot is on the mat. And we're going to hang out in our pigeon for a little while. This is pretty much the most classic cyclist yoga stretch. And I keep saying it's the one you can do pretty much anytime. Like you're watching Netflix, hang out in pigeon. On the phone, hang out in pigeon. Maybe not like writing a report for school or something, but most things, hang out in pigeon. So if you want, you can hang out in this very upright pigeon, which actually gives you a little bit of a back bend. It's great for your lower back if you have a tight back. Or if you want a bit more hip, you can start kind of walking your hands forward. For some people, this is going to be far enough. For other people, they can come kind of farther down. For some people, they can get their elbows down. Some people can get their heads down. Whatever works for you is great. But as I never get tired of saying, I want you to keep moving while you're in pigeon. So just keep tilting tiny, tiny bits left and right. Just really working into that hip bone or hip joint. And I find as you're moving too, you also notice that your shoulders start to relax a little bit more as you move. Everything sort of releases a bit better. And maybe you find a new little hot spot. You're like, okay, I can work into this for a few more minutes, a few more seconds. And keep breathing. Two more breaths here. And slowly start to make your way back on up if you've been down, to get where your hands are nice and firm on the mat. Once they're there, we're gonna tuck our left toes under. We're gonna lift our left knee to give us some space. We're gonna step it back into plank. And while we're in this plank, I just wanna play, just try something out, humor me. So we did the bird dog when we started with our right arm out and our left foot up. Let's just try, lift that left foot up in the air. See how that feels. And set it down. And try right foot up in the air. And set it down. Shift a little bit, try left hand out in front of you. And set it back down. Right hand out in front of you. And set it back down. Maybe next week, we'll try to work on left hand out, right foot up in plank. But for now, let's just press it up and back into downward dog. Keep taking those nice deep breaths. And let's bring that left leg up and back. And then bring that left knee up between your hands. Shin comes down, top of your left foot hits the mat. Right leg comes down on the mat. Right top of your foot comes out on the mat. Maybe just try getting nice and straight with your fingertips on the ground. Use them to get a little bit of a back bend here. Keep breathing. And then find your comfy pigeon, whether it's still staying up nice and tall or elbows come down, head comes down. Wherever it might be, just get comfy there. And keep moving. Maybe notice if this side is a little tighter than the other side. Couple more deep breaths here. And this is another really good yoga posture for digestion. So if you ever eat a really big meal and need to digest it a little faster, recommend hanging out in this or child's pose and just really focusing on those deep breaths. And when you're ready, start moving those hands back up to either side of your knee. Tuck your right toe, lift your right knee to give yourself some space. Step it back into plank. Couple breaths. And we're just gonna drop our knees. Our toes are gonna come out onto the mat, and we're gonna press it back into child's pose again. Maybe think about actually using your hands to kind of press so that your hips are coming, or your butt is coming closer to your heels. You might not get there. That's totally fine. And then just relax into it. So while we're here, I want us to move our hands and start walking them to the right side. So that we're gonna get this really nice stretch on our left side body. So once you've walked them, say like 30 degrees to the right, we're gonna pause and we're gonna really think about almost leaning a tiny bit toward the left. Not much, just enough to get a good stretch in our left side body. Head can sort of relax almost into our left shoulder. Then breathe. And then slowly start to walk your arms back to center. And then we're gonna walk them, surprise, over to our left. And once we get to about 30 degrees, we're gonna let our head sort of rest on our right arm this time, right shoulder. And we're just gonna let our weight sort of sink towards our right side. So we're not leaning all the way or anything, just enough that we're really feeling a great stretch in our right side body. And walk your hands back through to center. Come on up to your knees. Then whatever way makes the most sense, we're just gonna come on over to our butts. And then we're gonna lay down on our backs. Feet just a few inches from our bums. And let's just do a quick little figure four here. So we're gonna bring our our left ankle to our right knee. We're gonna bring our left hand through the triangle we've made. We're gonna lift our right foot up in the air, bring our right arm around so that our right and left hands meet. And then we're just gonna lean back. And while we're leaned back, we're just gonna maybe do some foot circles with our right foot. Really slow and really thoughtfully. So we're not just like flinging around our feet like this. We're very slowly moving in a full circle. You might realize that this actually makes you feel some discomfort in your calf. That is totally okay and totally normal. And we'll maybe do 5 one way, and then we're gonna reverse it and do 5 circles the other way. Keeping it nice and slow. And give your toes a little wiggle. And unclasp your hands, release that right foot. Right foot comes down to the ground. And then our left foot is gonna tip over to our right side to come down to the ground. Our arms are gonna come out in either a cactus shape or just out to the sides. And we're gonna look over our left shoulder. And nice deep breaths. Again, really think about your belly expanding. Maybe as you breathe, you're realizing you're actually relaxing into this more and more. I know for me, I always feel a release in my hip after like 3 good deep breaths. And when you're ready, bring her on back to center, unhook that left ankle, reset your legs on the ground, check in that they're a few inches from your butt, and let's bring that right ankle onto our left knee. We're gonna lift that left foot. Right hand is gonna go through that triangle, left hand is gonna come around the left leg to grab it, and relax on back. And like we did on the other side, maybe do some foot circles if this pose isn't challenging or is more relaxing than challenging. But again, really slow, really deliberate foot circles, and you're gonna hit a sticky spot, and that's okay. Just good to notice it. Think really deliberately about each circle. And when you've done 5, switch it, head in the other direction. And wiggle your toes. Release your hands, left foot comes down. This time our right foot is gonna drop over to our left side. Arms are coming out into a T or to cactus, and we're gonna look over that right shoulder. And we're breathing. And think about really trying to relax into this right hip. It might sound silly, but try to send your breath to your right hip. Sometimes that cue tends to help sort of release and relax. And let your belly rise and fall with every deep breath. And when you're ready, bring her on back to center, unhook that right foot, and you can either let your legs just come out in front of you and your feet can sort of go to either side, fall out to either side, or if you have a wall near you and you want to get a bit more of like a legs up the wall kind of stretch, tilt and find your way to said wall. We're in the best part of every yoga session, Shavasana, so find your comfy place. Legs can be up the wall, your butt can be right against the wall, or you can be a few inches back if that's more comfortable for tight hamstrings. Arms should just be down at your sides, but nice and open, just very relaxed. And I want everyone to just take 1 minute. I'm timing it, I promise. I will wake you up. To just close your eyes and just breathe. And no rules to this breathing. If you want to breathe deep and think about your belly coming out, great. If not, just breathe. Just relax. Just absorb. Get ready to face the rest of today. I promise I'm timing it. And slowly start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Start coming back to being awake. If your legs were up the wall, maybe tilt them off of the wall. Come onto your right side or left side, whichever side. And then slowly make your way back on up to sitting. All right, guys, another yoga session, perfectly executed. Thank you again for joining me. We'll be back Wednesday at 4 p.m. Again, if you guys have any kind of conflicts, if school is starting to get in the way of any of these sessions, just pop on into the chat box and just let me know, if there's a better time, what would work for you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.